Hey there everyone, it's CandyEvie here and I'm back with a top 10 video. Well, sorta. You may recognize the title of this video, and that would be because this is essentially a part 2 to one of my very first top 10 videos. The video, Top 10 Pokemon Whose Types Make No Sense, is somehow my most viewed video at over 600,000 views. Which is just crazy, especially seeing as this was one of my very first trivia style videos, and it certainly is not my best. But while I can't redo that video, I've been wanting to make a follow-up video for quite some time. So, in today's video, we are going to be looking at 10 more Pokemon whose types appear to make no sense at first glance. Seeing as I have already made a top 10 video on this topic, the Pokemon featured here are in no particular order at all. The Pokemon featured on this list are here because their official types don't seem to suit them very well, or there are other types that I think would suit them more. With that out of the way, let's get started. Number 1. Psyduck and Golduck. Do I even need to explain this one? Heck, Psyduck even has a little hint toward its powers in its name. Psyduck, as in Psychic Duck. I just don't understand why these two are pure water types. Their Pokedex entries go on and on about their mysterious powers. They have a ton of Psychic type moves in their move pools, but they're still pure water type. Why? These two are some of the few Pokemon that I am genuinely unable to justify their type. Why would you leave so many hints toward a Psychic typing and then just leave them as pure water types? It doesn't make sense. Number 2. Uxie, Alolan Meh Spirit. The late Guardians of Sinnoh were heavily inspired by pixies. Of course, they made their debut in Diamond and Pearl 2 generations before the fairy type was introduced. However, a lot of Pokemon were retyped in Generation 6. Of all the Pokemon to be retyped, you'd think that these 3 would be strong candidates. Perhaps the fact that they're legendary Pokemon might have made the change a little more controversial, but personally I would have loved to see how these 3 would do as Psychic Fairy types. Azelf in particular would be interesting, seeing as it has the most potential of the 3 as a physical attacker. But hey, we already have Gardevoir as a Psychic Fairy type already, so we're not completely let down. Number 3. Azurill. The lowest stage of the Azumarill line, Azurill was introduced as a baby Pokemon a generation after its evolutions. Marill and Azumarill at the time were pure water types, later being changed to Water Fairy in Generation 6. Azurill looks pretty similar to its evolutions, right? So it would be safe to assume that it would share their typing. Upon its debut, Azurill is a pure normal type. What? It looks so similar to its evolutions. What's so different about it that it requires a different typing? Azurill learns a bunch of water type moves naturally through TM and Egg moves. How does this make sense for something that isn't even a water type? Its Pokedex entries even go on about how it lives near water too. It has all the signs pointing toward a water typing, so why is it a normal type? It doesn't make sense. Number 4. The entire Dynamo line. This line of course heavily draws inspiration from electric eels. Electros' Pokedex entry states that it climbs out of the ocean, suggesting that it makes its habitat there. As well as Chargestone Cave, Dynamo and Electric can also be found in Seaside Cave, which would suggest an aquatic habitat. I'm pretty much indifferent to the types of these Pokemon though. Even if a partial water typing would make more sense seeing as they're based on eels, I can still understand why they are pure electric type. I like to think that these 3 might be a play on the whole fish out of water thing. And plus, let's be honest, these Pokemon learn next to no water type moves, so it's not like a water typing would even help it anyway. Number 5. Shellman. Shellmet and Karrablast both have pretty strange ways of evolving. They only evolve when traded with each other. During this process, Karrablast supposedly steals Shellmet's armor and then evolves into a Scavalier. And Shellmet, left without its armor, evolves into a Selgor. As a result of having stolen Shellmet's armor, Karrablast also gains a Steel type upon evolution. It makes sense, right? Well, not until you see that Shellmet was never even part Steel type in the first place. Why? If Karrablast gains a secondary Steel type upon evolution as a result of stealing the same armor that Shellmet wore all along, then wouldn't it make sense for Shellmet to have been Bug Steel to begin with? I just can't seem to make sense of it. Number 6. Bramble. Snowball I am willing to let go. It at least looks like it suits a fairy type a little bit. But Bramble? Just look at it! How does this thing even remotely resemble a fairy? It turns out that Snubbull and Gramble are based on the Kusith, which are creatures from Celtic mythology, which literally translates to dog fairy. But still, really? At least with Snubbull I can sorta see where they're going with its design, but Gramble? In the midst of all of these elegant fairy types, it sticks out like a sore thumb. I'm not a huge fan of Gramble to begin with, so that probably has a part to play with this point, but the way I see it, the fact that Gramble was retyped over other Pokemon such as the late Guardians really does not make an awful lot of sense. Number 7. Persian. While Persian's current type does sort of make sense, I can definitely see a typing of normal dark, or even just a pure dark type working for it. Doesn't it look really menacing? It looks like it would fit in really well as a dark type. Plus, it would be interesting to see how it would work competitively too. Persian learns loads of dark type moves upon level up, so it would give it a ton more coverage. Plus, normal dark is a unique type combination, so it would make Persian that bit more unique. Yeah, being quad weak to fighting would suck, but oh well. While its current typing does make sense, a partial dark typing would really suit it. Number 8. Weezing, Muk, and Garbodor. Okay, so I've grouped these three together because I would retype all of them for very similar reasons. It's not that the current typing of these three don't make sense as such, but considering what they're based on, I can think of additional typings that would suit them really well. For Weezing it would be Poison Flying, Muk Poison Water, and Garbodor Poison Ground. This is because they are based on air, water, and land pollution respectively. While their current typings don't really bother me too much, I think that adding those types would really help to emphasize what they're actually based on a little better. Number 9. Trapinch and Vibrava. In the comments section of my previous video, a lot of people went on about how they felt that Flygon's type didn't really make sense. But it actually does. Its Dragon type is more than obvious, but so is its ground typing. Its Pokédex entries go on about how it's referred to as the Desert Spirit, and how it's associated with sandstorms. And looking at the vast amount of ground type moves in Flygon's move pool, it makes perfect sense to me. Sure, it does have a bug vibe to it, so a partial bug type would be cool too, but its current type really does make perfect sense. The oddities of this line in my opinion are Trapinch and Vibrava. The entire line is based on antlions, so it would make sense for its lower stages to be of a partial bug type. Trapinch at the very least, anyway. I don't really understand why Vibrava has a dragon type too much. It just doesn't look dragon-like at all. A possible inspiration for its typing would be the fact that antlions is sometimes referred to as sand dragons, but I still feel that Vibrava has more of a bug type feel to it than a dragon type. Number 10. Lapras. Lapras is genuinely one of my favorite Pokemon of Generation 1, but I just don't get its type. Lapras is a typing of Water Ice. The water part of its typing doesn't even need to be questioned, but I just don't understand why it's an ice type. It doesn't really look like an ice type. It's not found in any cold areas with the exception of Icefall Cave, which was 2 generations after its initial debut, and its origin doesn't even back this up either. Lapras is based on the Loch Ness Monster, which just makes a pure water typing make even more sense. Even if I don't think that it makes a lot of sense, the ice type does benefit Lapras a lot competitively, so I'm not exactly complaining. This just backs up the idea that the ice type was added later on in Generation 1's development, so it was kinda just pasted onto a bunch of Pokemon, including Lapras. At least with something like Dugong, I can sorta see why it would be an ice type, but in Lapras' case it just really is not that obvious. I'm hoping that if we ever do see Lapras get a Mega Evolution, then that would be a great opportunity to really incorporate its ice typing into its design. Well, that was 10 more Pokemon whose types make no sense. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you want to check out the first video that I did about type confusion, then you can click on the link in the video or in the description below. But for now, that's all for now from me, and I'll see you next time. Bye!